What if I told you that China has been secretly buying gold at a pace not seen since the days of ancient empires, and the reason why has nothing to do with economics and everything to do with a 2,000-year-old strategy for global power? Because while Western financial experts keep analyzing China's gold purchases through the lens of currency diversification and inflation hedging, they're completely missing what's actually happening. China isn't hoarding gold for the reasons you think. They're preparing for a financial war that most people don't even know is coming. Let's start with the numbers, because they're absolutely staggering. The hidden gold mountain. In 2024 alone, China's central bank officially added 225 tons of gold to its reserves. That's the largest annual increase in decades. But here's the thing, that's just what they're admitting to. Independent analysts estimate that China's actual gold holdings could be anywhere from 4,000 to 30,000 tons. The official number? Just over 2,200 tons. The discrepancy is massive. And it's intentional. How is this possible? Because China doesn't have to report private gold purchases. Chinese state-owned enterprises, sovereign wealth funds, and even private citizens are buying gold at unprecedented rates, and none of it shows up in official central bank reserve numbers. The Shanghai Gold Exchange, which handles the vast majority of China's gold trading, processed over 20,000 tons of gold in 2023. Where did all that gold go? Into Chinese vaults, safes, and reserves that don't appear in any international reporting. China is also the world's largest gold producer, mining over 370 tons annually. And here's the critical part. Chinese law prohibits domestic gold from leaving the country. Every ounce mined in China stays in China. They're also the world's largest importer of gold, bringing in another 1,000 plus tons annually from international markets. Gold flows into China but never flows out. This has been going on for over 2 decades. Do the math. Even conservative estimates suggest China has accumulated somewhere between 10,000 and 15,000 tons of gold since 2000. That would make them the largest gold holder in the world, surpassing the United States. But they're not announcing it. They're not bragging about it. They're quietly, methodically, relentlessly accumulating the one asset that has held value for 5,000 years of human civilization. Why? The lesson of 1971. To understand China's gold strategy, we need to go back to August 15, 1971. That's when President Richard Nixon ended the convertibility of the U.S. dollar to gold. The Bretton Woods system collapsed overnight. Before 1971, the U.S. dollar was backed by gold. Other countries could exchange their dollars for actual gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce. This made the dollar trustworthy. It was as good as gold because it literally represented gold. After 1971, the dollar became a fiat currency. It was backed by nothing except the full faith and credit of the United States government. No gold, no silver, no tangible asset, just trust. And for the past 53 years, that system has worked. The dollar remains the world's reserve currency. International trade is conducted in dollars. Oil is priced in dollars. Countries hold dollars as their primary foreign exchange reserve. But here's what Chinese strategists noticed. The entire global financial system is built on trust in American institutions, the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Treasury, the American legal system, American political stability. What happens when that trust erodes? China watched as the U.S. printed trillions of dollars during the 2008 financial crisis. They watched as the Federal Reserve expanded its balance sheet from $900 billion to over $9 trillion through quantitative easing. They watched as the U.S. used the dollar's reserve currency status as a weapon, sanctioning countries, freezing assets, and cutting nations off from the global financial system. Russia learned this the hard way in 2022. After invading Ukraine, Western nations froze over $300 billion in Russian central bank reserves. Money that Russia thought was safely stored in Western banks suddenly became inaccessible. Oh, China saw this and understood the vulnerability. If you hold your reserves in dollars, euros, or any Western currency, you're vulnerable to Western political decisions. Your wealth can be frozen, sanctioned, or devalued at the push of a button. But gold can't be sanctioned. Gold can't be printed into worthlessness. Gold can't be frozen by foreign governments. Gold is the ultimate sovereign asset. This is why China hoards gold, not as an investment, as insurance. The tributary system and the mandate of heaven. Remember the tributary system we discussed earlier? For 2,000 years, China maintained a network of international relations where other countries acknowledged Chinese centrality in exchange for trade and protection. But that system wasn't just political, it was economic, and at the heart of it was something tangible: precious metals. Throughout Chinese history, gold and silver served as the ultimate store of value. Emperors accumulated precious metals in their treasuries as proof of the mandate of heaven. The concept was simple. A legitimate ruler would bring prosperity, and prosperity would manifest in overflowing treasuries filled with gold and silver. When dynasties fell, one of the signs was always depleted treasuries. Empty vaults meant the emperor had lost the mandate of heaven. It meant the dynasty was finished. This cultural association between gold holdings and legitimate authority runs deep in Chinese civilization. It's not just about economics, it's about sovereignty, legitimacy, and power. Modern Chinese leaders are deeply influenced by this historical consciousness. When Xi Jinping talks about the Chinese dream and national rejuvenation, he's explicitly connecting to this imperial legacy, and part of that legacy is the accumulation of precious metals as a symbol and source of power. Western financial analysts miss this because they think about gold purely in terms of portfolio allocation and inflation hedging. They don't understand the cultural and historical weight that gold carries in Chinese strategic thinking. The petrodollar system's Achilles heel. Here's where it gets really interesting. The global dominance of the US dollar isn't just about trust, it's about oil. In 1974, the United States made a deal with Saudi Arabia. The Saudis would sell oil exclusively in US dollars, and in exchange, America would provide military protection and weapons. Other OPEC countries followed suit. This created the petrodollar system. If you want to buy oil, you need dollars. If you need dollars, you have to trade with America or hold dollar reserves. This creates constant global demand for dollars, which allows the US to print money without causing massive inflation. It's an incredibly powerful system, but it has a weakness. What if major oil producers started accepting payment in other currencies? What if they started accepting gold? China has been quietly working on this for years. They've established currency swap agreements with dozens of countries, allowing trade in yuan instead of dollars. They've built alternative payment systems like SIAPS, cross-border interbank payment system, to bypass SWIFT, the Western-controlled global payment network. And they've been talking to oil producers about accepting payment in yuan or gold. In 2018, China launched oil futures contracts priced in yuan and convertible to gold. This is huge. It means oil producers can sell to China in yuan, then immediately convert those yuan to gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Suddenly, there's an alternative to the petrodollar. You don't need dollars to buy oil. You can use yuan backed by gold convertibility. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Russia have all shown interest in this system. Iran and Venezuela are already using it to circumvent U.S. sanctions. If the petrodollar system breaks down, the dollar's reserve currency status collapses. And if that happens, all those trillions of dollars sitting in central banks around the world will flood back to the United States, causing massive inflation. And China's gold hoarding is preparation for this scenario. When the dollar's dominance ends, they want to be holding real assets, not paper currency. The BRICS gold-backed currency plan. In August 2023, the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, met in Johannesburg. there were rumors that they would announce a new gold-backed currency to rival the dollar. They didn't make that announcement, but the discussions happened behind closed doors. The idea is straightforward. Create a new international currency backed by gold, used exclusively for trade between BRICS nations and their partners. This currency wouldn't replace domestic currencies, it would just replace the dollar for international trade. China has been the primary driver of this idea, and it makes perfect sense when you understand their gold accumulation strategy. If you're going to create a gold-backed currency, you need gold, lots of it. China has been stockpiling gold for exactly this purpose. The 20-year plan. Chinese strategic planning operates on a completely different timescale than Western democracies. American presidents think in 4-year terms. Chinese leaders think in decades. The gold accumulation strategy started in earnest around 2002. That's over 20 years of consistent, patient accumulation, and it's nowhere near finished. Conservative estimates suggest China will continue buying gold at current or higher rates for at least another decade. They're aiming for somewhere between 15,000 and 20,000 tons before they're ready to make their move. Why those numbers? Because that's roughly equivalent to what the United States held at the peak of Bretton Woods. That's the amount you need to back a global reserve currency. China isn't in a hurry. They're willing to wait. They've been waiting for 150 years since the Opium Wars and the Century of Humiliation to restore China to what they see as its rightful place at the center of global civilization. A few more years of gold accumulation is nothing in that context. The answer that shocks. So here's the answer that will shock you. China isn't hoarding gold to get rich. They're not even hoarding gold to protect against inflation or currency devaluation, though those are side benefits. China is hoarding gold to end the American-led global financial system and replace it with something closer to the tributary system that kept China at the center of the world for 2,000 years. Gold is the weapon they're using to fight a financial war that most people don't even know is happening, and they're winning. Every year, China accumulates more gold. Every year, they build more financial infrastructure independent of Western systems. Every year, more countries sign up for Belt and Road projects and yuan-based trade agreements. Every year, the dollar's dominance erodes just a little bit more. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is publicly stated Chinese policy if you know where to look and how to interpret it. Xi Jinping's speeches about national rejuvenation and the Chinese dream aren't just rhetoric. They're declarations of strategic intent. The gold hoarding is preparation for a post-American world order, and the shocking part, they might actually pull it off. Not through military force, not through ideological conversion, but through patient accumulation of the one asset that has held value throughout all of human civilization, combined with the strategic infrastructure to make that gold the foundation of a new global financial system. The tributary system lasted 2,000 years because it was based on mutual benefit and voluntary participation. Countries joined because it was profitable. Modern China is rebuilding that system, and gold is the foundation. That's why they hoard it. That's the answer. And yes, it should shock you, because while Western financial analysts debate portfolio allocation percentages, China is quietly, methodically, relentlessly building an alternative to the entire global financial system. And when that alternative is ready, when they've accumulated enough gold, built enough infrastructure, and secured enough trading partners, they'll offer the world a choice. Continue with a dollar system that's increasingly unstable, increasingly weaponized, and increasingly unpredictable. Or join a new system backed by gold, offering stability and access to the world's largest economy with no political conditions attached. That's not a hard choice for most of the developing world, and that's exactly what China is counting on.